Welcome to Deep Dive Film School. I'm Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places that people
Find good media. That's right. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Those are our most active platforms. All right, let's get into this segment. This is a segment we do annually, just going over the past year of films. I watch a lot more movies than you do.
Yes.
And you just watch the same horror movie over and over. I try and expand my mind as much as possible.
I know.
I'm kidding.
Although I will say, of my 5 flops, 2 of them I saw.
Oh, excellent.
So
Perfect.
it's not completely uninformed.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's
No.
mostly uninformed.
No, that's the best part of this show is I do my top 5 favorites. He does his flops, which the 5 he's glad he didn't see.
Yep. And this time it's 3 I'm glad I didn't see, and 2 I'm bummed I did. So
even better.
Yeah.
Can't wait to have actual context.
I'm always
to some of
more
these.
articulate when I'm complaining.
That should be a requirement, actually, to have you watch these, watch your flops.
So I have to. So now
I watch all mine.
for 2024, I have to be like, this looks horrible. I have to watch it so it can make my list. Fuck, I don't want to do. Well, fine.
No. I mean, you cram right before the show and watch, like, have a marathon.
I'll just drive off into the distance. I'll never be heard from again.
All right. So yeah, let's get into it. I'll go first. And talk. You know, it was a really good year in movies. A lot of. I thought for the most part, like, there's a lot of really great stuff out there. A lot of directors kind of like hit the same year of releasing movies. You know, we had some really excellent directors. There was a handful of stuff I didn't see that I wanted to kind of talk about real quick that this is why they're not on my list or whatever. So Dream Scenario, the Nick Cage one, it looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it is.
The Iron Claw, I didn't see. Anatomy of the Fall is supposed to be amazing. Same with American Fiction. Zone of Interest, the Jonathan Glazer movie, I'm really sad I didn't get to see. And the one I'm most upset I didn't get to see is Poor Things. I haven't been able to see that one yet. So it looks so fun, and it would probably top my list or be up there for me. It seems excellent, and he's a
strange and fascinating director.
He's a very strange director, so I'm very interested. But a lot of his movies are depressing and
looks,
not really funny.
This
one looks
really
funny.
different. Yeah, it looks weird.
So yeah, and I love weird, and he's not a bad director. It's just heavy shit.
Yeah, and just like
weird shit,
and makes like you want to feel really
weird.
really uncomfortable and kind of feel bad.
Excellent. So all right. So I'll go through real quick. I'll just go through 10 through 6. Real quick, just kind of list them. I loved the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated Mutant Mayhem one.
I started watching it. It's fucking really
awesome.
Cool.
And I say that as someone who loved Ninja Turtles growing up.
Same.
And there's been 1,000 animated versions of this. To me, this is the Into the Spider-Verse for this series.
Completely.
So,
well, and it wouldn't exist
good.
Without Into the Spider-Verse.
Probably
It kind of freed it to do this cool graffiti-looking artwork thing. It's really cool.
Great movie called Blackberry. John Carney's new movie, Flora and Son, that I saw at Sundance.
Oh, nice.
December, Todd Phillips' new movie that's on Netflix with Julianne Moore
I haven't
and
even heard about this.
Natalie Portman. Oh yeah, turn on Netflix. They're advertising the shit out of it.
Oh, okay.
Barbie #6. Greta Gerwig is excellent. She's so good. All right, let me get into my 5th movie here. This is a movie I know you have seen, but it is Talk to Me, the horror movie. I loved this movie, and I love great horror. I don't love all horror, but when it's great, I fucking love it. And to me, this was one of my favorite horror movies I've seen in a while. I had a lot of fun watching it.
And it's crazy. It's just a couple of YouTube dudes.
And that's the thing is, like, so they figured out how to kind
Aussie
of modernize a lot of tropes that we've seen before and do it in an interesting way, adding the phones into everything, how they interact with it, how they shot it. And it's not a scary movie. It's creepy and fucked up.
Yeah.
And there's some heavy shit in there.
Got some oi moments for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, brutal,
brutal
stuff for sure. But effective, very effective. And it starts out with a bang too. Like right away, you're like, oh shit, so this is the ride we're going on.
Yeah, the intro is like pretty surprising. Did you know, and I don't know if you read this because I watched a whole behind the scenes thing about it, that the hand literally they came up with at the 11th hour, like
What?
a couple of days before they started shooting.
Shut up.
They were just going to use like a Ouija board thing or something different. And then they're, oh yeah. And then like a prop person they knew just like made it, like had it cast and made it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know.
What?
And I'm like, that's
like
the whole movie is the hand.
How did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole time it wasn't
It
actually.
wasn't supposed to be a hand.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like, I don't know if
Wow.
it was like a candle
That blows
or
me
like
away.
a table thing, but it wasn't a hand. That was
Wow.
like the last minute decision. I know.
That's insane.
And I'm like, y'all went down in like modern horror movie history with that prop.
and also it's like, yeah, it's on the poster, everything.
Yeah, it's everything. But yeah, it was a last minute decision.
Amazing.
Isn't that funny?
Such a fun watch. I watched it a few times because I had to show my family. I was like, you guys have to see this crazy ass movie.
But be careful about these couple of moments. In
yeah,
here.
no, I warned them. I was like,
you might not want to watch this moment right here.
gonna get heavy here in a minute.
Ready? Cover your eyes. Yeah.
So great movie.
Yes.
And really happy. I always get happy when we get to make these lists because that means you get to reflect on the past year and like what were the best 10
what
things
were the
I
things? Totally. So I wish that I could get, so for my number 5 flops, I wish I could give credit to wherever I heard this. I know it was a local podcast from Salt Lake City. That's where we do our show. But it was years ago, and I'm sure that it's defunct now. But a group of people that were doing this podcast went on some tangent, some comedic tangent. It's one of the best off-the-cuff jokes I've ever heard, which is the desire for an origin story of Count Von Count, the Count from Sesame Street, like wondering like how he turned into a vampire, like what was the human version of the puppet ahead of time. And it made me laugh so hard because I was like, it's so stupid, and at the same time, what self-important douche would think like people really need to know about where this guy came from. So my number 5 is Wonka, because I'm like, why do we give a shit where Willy Wonka came from? Do we really need an origin story for like just the whimsy of Willy Wonka and like where he came from? I know that it's gotten some good reviews. It's the dumbest idea to me.
It's IP is
of course
a big part of it.
Of course, and that is a big part of it.
But also, I think having faith that Wonka was not always that way.
This is the thing, right? so like, how do we readdress the tiny orange elephant in the room, which is that the Oompa Loompas were indentured servants, like they were slaves that worked for Wonka, and in this they're like, no, they're not. They're Hugh Grant, and he's like a little Oompa Loompa. And
I mean, so I saw this movie.
Oh God,
it wasn't that bad. I didn't think it was that bad.
I hate the whole premise of it. Feels so deeply cynical to me and forced, and it's like
do we need it? Yeah, no.
Like I realize that like we as fans of a thing don't own anything. Like I know that. Like I've learned that as we've resurrected everything from Ghostbusters to Blade Runner, right?
Yep.
And I've given up on that dream a long time ago, but not everything has to be Harry Potter levels of whimsy and wonder and magic and messaging and deep meaning, like that there's meaning underneath it, because now all of a sudden Wonka is this like hero of the common man, and like the poors aren't supposed to have chocolate, right? But he's going to give the poors chocolate. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
No,
this
but
is
his
a guy
whole team is definitely, it's rising people up. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And that's complete bullshit, because we're talking about a guy that like, keep in mind, this is the origin story of a recluse billionaire who kills a number of children in his first official tour opening of his slave labor candy camp.
You're ripping all the magic away from Willy Wonka.
It's fine.
Stop it.
That's what made the original so great. He was kind of a fucking dick. And kids died. It was great. That's what made the original so important. Is that's what Roald Dahl understood, was that it was like kids wanted.
So you're going Anakin Skywalker, like, do we really need to see Darth Vader as a baby?
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Or
you think Patton Oswalt's joke, right? Yeah, you think Angelina Jolie is hot. Well, here's John Voight's ballsack. That's where she came from. Why don't you want to see that? You love Angelina Jolie. Like, it's the same thing. It's like, sorry. There we go. That's my number 5's Wonka.
Not a bad movie though. I didn't find it. I was, obviously it's more musical. I think the first one's pretty musical as well.
Yeah, it's got songs
And they
in it.
they do play off nostalgia, of course, like that's part of it is and again it's IP. But the songs were not as annoying as I was expecting them to be.
We're also at peak Chalamet. Like, we got to dial it back, you guys.
His
gotta
voice
dial it
not
back.
that great.
We just have to dial the whole thing back. When he was like, "What if we imagineer it?" I was like, "Everybody go home. Like, we do not need this. Nobody needs this."
All right.
Sorry.
My number 4.
There's going to be a lot of that kind of complaining. So if what you just heard wasn't charming to you, you should turn this off now.
Good advice. All right, my number 4. Fucking love this movie. I'm going with Alexander Payne's The Holdovers.
Right?
Did you see that?
Yeah.
So I think this is his
so
best
good.
movie since Election. I looked back. And
I'm a fan of Sideways
I know you
more
love,
than you are.
Yeah,
but
you like Sideways more than me, and I love About Schmidt. That's a great one too. But I love Election, and I loved this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a great mix of something we've probably seen traditionally before, but these three people together that are in this movie that kind of just come together. They're isolated in
It's
their
a small
own
movie
worlds.
that
Yeah,
made
it's a
me
very
feel
small
so
movie.
good. It's just
And, it's excellent, and the writing is so good.
Yeah.
And like, we need more original screenplays.
Well, and we need more movies that can be small movies where the stakes aren't, the quantum verse. That it can just be like,
Yeah.
are these two characters going to find
These people on Earth.
yeah, like meaning with each other in
Yeah.
this moment, and that's all it needed to be.
And it's kind of a Christmas movie a little bit
It
too,
is,
which is
yeah.
great. And Paul Giamatti, man, I think he just won the Golden Globe.
Did he? For this?
a couple days ago for it? And he's excellent here. And
that fake eye is doing a lot of work.
Damn, part of me was like, shit, did he go crazy? Is
Yeah,
he?
yeah.
Is that him?
Yeah, you're like, no, that's a prosthetic, but man, it's like it does a lot of heavy lifting for his character. It's amazing.
Great point. But it's just kind of a I don't know. It's just kind of one of those. Because I'm gonna have some depressing shit on here later. It's just one of those feel good movies,
Yeah.
They did a great job with it, and it was just a crowd pleaser.
When Alexander Payne is really like batting 1,000, he's one of the kings of life isn't perfect and that's okay. Like, he's so good at making that actually feel warm and comforting. And like, he did
I agree.
He did that in About Schmidt. He did that in Sideways, and he nails it here, where it's just like this ending conversation between our two main leads is like, yeah, they're not best friends, and they both learned a lot, and the stakes were a little bit higher than maybe they thought they were going to be, and they're probably never going to see each other again.
Yep.
And it's so bittersweet without it having to be saccharine. Like, it's just good.
Yeah,
Good storytelling.
And there's conflicts and it's just it's just well done all around.
Let's talk about one that it wasn't well done.
Let's do it.
My number 4, and I have 2 on my list that are like this, which I kind of refer to as my QAnon adjacent astroturfing
Oh, I know where
indie
you're going
movies that you might not. This is a different one, but the one that you're thinking of is probably on my list. And that is the movie Lady Ballers, which I don't know. It's a comedy. Get ready, everybody. A comedy that was distributed and produced by none other than Ben Shapiro himself, along with his website and news program, The Daily Caller, which is basically about a group of ragtag misfit guys who, their basketball team just is no good, right? And they can't win any of their tournament games, so they give up. And then one of the guy's woke daughters tells them about what trans rights are. So they all realize that they can pretend that they identify as women so they can be on a female basketball team and then take the championship.
I've never heard of this movie.
I unfortunately have. And I watched the trailer and it made me so mad, not just for the cynical take that it had, but also that it's like they're obviously trying to make a comedy that the point of it is to enrage and madden people. But I'm like, but it's not even funny. Like they didn't do a good job. Like, when you watch the trailer, you're like, there are jokes here. And you know what? The Wayans knew that when they made the good version of this movie called Joanna Man, right? Like, you can do this and have it be funny if you're not trying to be hurtful the entire time. But the part that made me the most furious was I read this, and I'm going to paraphrase because I didn't get the quote exactly right, so I apologize. That Ben Shapiro, in an interview as to where the inception of this movie came from, is that the Daily Caller was doing a short documentary about the fact that, oh, these trans women are winning at all these sports, and like, you know, this is a loophole, and like, aren't there men out there who are taking advantage of this loophole so that they can be winning at women's sports? They couldn't find an example of it happening in the real world. So they decided to make a fictional movie that's a comedy where it does happen. And I was like, oh, you're so close to realizing a truth, which is that you made up a boogeyman that doesn't fucking exist. But you didn't, oh, you got so close to being like, wait, are we full of shit? Like, but then they couldn't get there and they made this movie instead. It's the most fucking infuriating quote I've ever heard, that it was like, we wanted to find this so we could prove our premise, and it didn't exist, so we made a fictional movie about our made-up problem.
Can't wait to watch it.
Like, that's the most... But anyway, number 4, Lady Ballers, Ben Shapiro. Great job, bro.
All right. Let me get into my number 3, my third favorite film of the year. It is a Celine Strong film, Past Lives. This was something that I saw at Sundance. And just this kind of drama romance of a two Korean kids that had kind of like a deep bonded childhood that separated, and then you kind of tells the story over decades of, you know, love, romance. You know, they never were really together, but there was always kind of that like little bit of whatever. I don't know. I don't want to give too much away because of the way she unfolds the story is so beautiful. And some of the shots in this movie are amazing, and that will be a theme through all of these movies. Like, movies look so amazing these days. Like, you could make it look so good. Also, you're just the creativity of framing and separation and lines and use of windows and doors, and just like, it's just getting better and better. It
feels like that kind of Wong Kar-wai, like utilization of space in that way.
In some moments, absolutely. I mean, at least if we're talking In the Mood for Love, kind of like, it's not quite that, but you know, there's a conflict of, you know, she lives in America, he's in Korea. They just randomly, I think through online, you know, some messaging service, they find each other and start talking or whatever. But she's, you know, they're going through their lives together. They start FaceTiming and stuff like that. But she, you know, years and years go by, you know, so we get this interesting relationship. But the way they told the story, the ending made it a great movie. And it's just a beautiful story. And I think more people should see it if they haven't seen Past Lives.
That's great. My number 3, we're getting to one of the ones that I did see. I knew better going into it. I knew. I don't know why. I was like, I was like working on a project, so I went boop, and it just played on my laptop. Because the reboot of this was terrible and completely wrong-headed, and this was no better. This is Pet Sematary Bloodlines. I don't know why. I'm a fucking glutton for punishment. I'm like, I don't know why I did it. Like, I saw the remake of Pet Sematary and was like, well, I don't think that these people ever read a book before. Not even Pet Sematary, just a book. Or like know how a story is supposed to be structured. Like, I don't know if an AI made it or what.
Also, the first Pet Sematary, not that great of a movie.
It's not, but it's better than anything else that they've tried to do, right?
No, it's fine. It's fine, and I love that movie.
I mean, it's cheesy as hell.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's pain. It wasn't good back then, so now it's definitely not going to be good remaking it now.
It's aged poorly, although there are still amazing moments. But Pet Sematary Bloodline.
I love the movie. I'm just saying, I love Pet Sematary, the movie.
The original?
The original.
Yes.
But this I have not even seen.
So it's a prequel. And, you know, if you remember in Pet Sematary, there's the part where Judd's like, you know, sometimes dad is better. And then he goes down this whole rabbit hole, this diatribe about when he was a kid and like Jimmy Bateman's dog and blah, blah, blah. And he like tells the story. And there's this great flashback in the original Mary Lambert 1988 version. And that little flashback, that like minute and a half, is scarier, more interesting, and has better stakes and better acting than this whole stupid movie does.
So is that what this is about?
That's what this is about.
Oh.
This is supposed to take.
That's a great.
Could be. So it's supposed to take place in 1969. Nothing about this feels like the dress, the hairstyles, the way kids act, the way they talk. Like, I guess they got the right cars, but other than that, there's nothing about this. Like, I kept going, like, while watching it, I kept laughing, going, "Oh, this is supposed to be 1969." Like, they did no work to try and make it feel that way. Also, like, there's just a problem with a lot of prequels when you're like, well, we know Judd and his wife live. So where are the stakes? Like, if they're running from like the dead guy with a knife, I'm like, they're going to be fine. Because you're like, they're going to be fine. That's the only way that John Lithgow shows up in the next movie, right? I don't know if people that make these movies find different things scary than I do. But isn't there always that part, like, let's say in like a poltergeist movie where like, there's a haunted house and like towards the end, the crescendo of the movie, it's like lightning starts kind of flashing through the windows and like things start flying around, right? Has that ever been scary to you? Is there anything about that that's ever scary?
There's things that are stupid scary.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them.
But that's one of those things where I'm like, as a viewer watching it, I'm like, yes, the bookcase flew across the room and it almost hit you. And like, I'd be scared that you like sprained your ankle, but I wouldn't be scared like in the cosmic, like, horror things are scary. And so I'm like, do people that make these movies find different things scary than I do, or are they just really, really bad at it?
How much of something like Pet Sematary is IP? I mean, it has to be a little bit, right?
They're talking about the guy who made this, like, I read an interview with him and he was like, I mean, worth hoping we can make another Pet Sematary movie like every 2 years. And I'm like, are you?
The new Saw series.
Is that what you're thinking? You're thinking you're going to make a cinematic universe like the fucking Marvel movies? Because even they can't do that anymore. And they were really good at it for a really long time.
Yeah.
No one's going to watch your biannual fucking Pet Sematary movies. Sorry. Anyway, that's my number.
Somebody
3.
is. Someone's got the...
I did.
Someone's got the promo t-shirt.
I'm one of the idiots that did, but if I had to pay for it, I would find the director and be like, no more. Stop it. Sandwich movies. How many sandwiches could you have given to underprivileged people instead of making Pet Sematary Bloodlines? Probably a lot. Make a movie about that. Make a movie about handing out the sandwiches. That probably would have won some awards.
Yeah.
Instead, you made Bloodlines. Also, the masks that they have, the spooky animal masks that the kids wear. Have you ever met a child? Nobody makes masks like that. God. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I love that you apologize at the end of each one.
It's because I could feel myself like sliding down the hill, and I'm like, nobody cares. Like, this is just for me.
All right, my number 2. Probably these last 2 may be obvious, but especially if you know me and my tastes. Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese. I don't know. Did you happen to see this one?
Not yet.
Absolutely take some time to do it.
Is it like it's like 4 hours long or something?
It's like 3.5.
Okay,
but like
that's not a problem for me. I just didn't. Yeah.
No, and it's so funny because I was gonna bring this up because people will binge 5 hours of a TV show, but they have a problem with a 3-hour movie, and I'm like, what's the difference? There's no difference.
No, there's
other
not
than
at all.
There's, you get. Anyways.
Yeah, maybe they should start doing credits. Maybe Scorsese should start doing the credits like 3 times in the middle of his movie, and then people will be like, "It was great. Like, I wish there were more."
Yeah. No, but a fantastic movie. This guy has not lost a step, dude. He is so good. Like, some of his best camera work I've seen. Like, amazing. Like, the ending shot of this movie, whoa, holy shit. And then just throughout, and he, you're speaking to how they did such a shitty job with a period piece in that movie.
Right.
He is setting up these massive epic scenes with real people and very limited CGI. And it just looks brilliant. And then you have these performances, and then you have the subject matter of, you know, basically the gentrification of Indian Nation, and so it's totally fucked up and sad.
And I,
you know,
like
the
I said,
white man coming in and taking over.
And I love this. Like, I haven't seen it,
You would love it.
reading interviews with him and DiCaprio about how they built the story and how much time it took, and the fact that they got so far into pre-production and then they both stopped and went, this isn't it. This is the wrong story, and backed all the way up and then told the story that they decided to tell.
Yeah.
I was like,
and still pulled it off.
It gives me chills just thinking about it. That I don't know. It's just, you know, we talk about the accountability and who gets to tell what stories and what stories should be told and all these different kinds of things. And a lot of it feels really performative.
This is a story that needs to be told.
Well, I was just going to say, like, for Scorsese to be as seasoned as he is, and for him to step back and go, we're coming at it from the wrong angle, and we have to throw out everything. Obviously they keep pieces, but throw out the entire way that they went about it and alter it in order to tell the right story is so damn, I mean, he's a real one. Like, that is so cool.
Absolutely.
To me.
And DiCaprio his character is such like a dumbass, and you don't really see him play dumbasses that much.
That's true.
But the performances, the cinematography, direction, everything, like, it was a movie.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun. I did watch it over 2 nights though.
No, that's good. So you took a breather.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's
okay.
You're not a monster. You got to take a break.
I'm not a monster. Well, I have Sundance coming up, and
that
so
will make
look
you
forward to
a
that.
monster out of you. That is true.
That episode, but yeah, talk about overload. Okay.
My number 2, and I can make this quick, and I think part of it is just because we're here in Utah that made this feel extra egregious. This is another one of my AstroTurf movies, and like seeing it on Twitter and people talking about it just made me even more irritated. My number 2, another one I did not see, but it is The Sound of Freedom, the Jim Caviezel.
This is where I thought you were going.
Yeah. I was getting there. It's so stupid. The fact that the entire premise that they built this on of, like, based on a true story, and it's like, no, based on one guy's self-inflated ego of this misplaced idea of what child trafficking or sex trafficking even is. And the fact that, like, after the movie came out, all this stuff came out about the guy, the fact that he had to step down from, first of all,
the irony. The irony.
Listen, white people in Provo, I don't care what you think you're doing. Don't name your organization the Underground Railroad. That already has historical context that's way different than what you think it is. But the fact also that the company that made this movie, Angel Productions,
yes, I've looked into it,
and Angel Productions was what they resulted in doing after their initial project had folded because of bankruptcy, which was Angel Vid, which was one of the Clean Flicks companies, right?
Yeah.
Which another,
Not surprised.
Again, one of these guys also ended up being arrested for child pornography. So even though he was like, no, check out my version of Titanic. We leave in the frozen corpses, but take out the boobies, right? Like, so you got a clean movie now.
Hey, one of the first things they tell you in screenwriting class is write what you know.
Well, if I was to kidnap a kid and sell him into sexual servitude, here's what I would do. Like, what the fuck? Like, but like,
no,
the fact that
that's a stupid argument.
No, but you're making a good joke. But this entire hero worship of this idea, you know, people who are experts in actual sexual trafficking say, like, the fake version of it shown in this movie did more harm than good by showing that it's actually not showing what real trafficking is, which is you have destitute families living in poverty that then exploit their own children. There isn't like some white van without windows that's picking up kids and taking them to El Salvador. Like, everything about your premise is wrong, right? And then obviously it comes out that this guy is also like a total creep, you know, a total sex pest, all these other things. But it's just like, then the fact that people on Twitter are like, the projector broke during my screening of Sound of Freedom, so I'm pretty sure that the pedophiles in Hollywood are trying to silence this film. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you guys, nothing is as deep as you think it is. Sorry.
No, the aftermath and the whole behind the scenes of the reviews and comments on this movie online
Oh
is,
my
is a whole nother fascinating, wild story.
Oh, yeah. Go
And that's
down
why
the
I
rabbit
started
hole of
reading
that.
about it, because I read this headline about it and got into it. And I was like, what is happening? Like, and it's in the quote is, God's children are not for sale.
Yeah.
That's every single, go and look at the reviews of this movie.
Yep.
You will see, 8 out of 10 reviews
Yep.
have that quote in it.
Right.
All right. Can you guess my number one? Do you have an idea?
It's Beau is Afraid.
No.
Oh.
No, this is kind of an obvious choice, but since I saw it, it was such a complex movie that after watching it second, third time now, wow, what a movie. But Oppenheimer, Nolan's Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of Nolan in our lives. We know what kind of director he is. We know how he loves the different aspects of film, right? And how good he is at shooting, directing, editing, sound, CGI,
Story.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some people that probably don't like Nolan, but a lot of people love Nolan. But we've seen the kinds of movies that he's made before, but we've never seen him do the biopic.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
And so, thinking about him already having a story and not having to necessarily, although there's a tinge of this here just because of the complexity of what they're dealing with creating a nuclear bomb. But a lot of his movies, you have to find that one thread, right? And they have to kind of explain a lot. It's very explainy. This movie, the explaininess on this movie is turned down like 80%.
Yeah.
And so there's some there because of the technicality of the things they're talking about and how they're trying to produce these things and the scientific side of what they're doing. That part's, explainy, and it's helpful. Just like it is in his other movies. But sometimes that can be like, is this whole movie just telling me what's happening, to a point?
Oh yeah. Sometimes his exposition dumps are really
especially
poorly
in something
done.
like Inception, as much as I absolutely love Inception.
Tenet.
Yeah, that one too.
Come on.
But this was amazing. Him in this, taking this over and taking this particular story doesn't necessarily have as much to do with it as much as he knows the ending already, right? There's no crazy weird, it was all a dream ending, right? It's about someone's life. Yeah, it's about someone's life.
Well, and
you can keep mysteries inside of someone's life, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine, and he absolutely does. And there's a lot of unanswered questions of things that happen, but you're also spanning a lot of time and telling this pretty ensemble, huge, amazing cast of people, amazing.
Robert Downey Jr. is incredible in this.
So you've seen this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
It's funny you talk about that, like sort of like trying to explain enough to push forward the storyline of sort of how the science actually works of what Oppenheimer's working on. But at the same time, I was like, the way it moves through this non-linear storytelling of his life, and we just are getting these like snapshot moments that are important totally out of order and out of sequence in a lot of times, mixed with this beautiful like visual and soundscape impression of how this guy just sees things differently than the way that other people see them, reminded me almost of something like The Fountain. Where it was I
could see
it was like you knew you were being thrown a lot of stuff out of order and a lot of stuff out of even sort of POV of what's actually happening versus what's happening in his head, and sort of like we move back and forth from this hearing. Obviously, that's during the height of this sort of Red Scare era of like, can we even vet this guy?
Yeah.
But all of those pieces of it, and then these flights of fancy where it's like he's seeing energy, he's seeing particles. You know what I mean? He's a little touched. Like there's something a little off about him, which makes him such an interesting character.
And it felt so interesting looking.
Oh yeah, but it reminded me of something like The Fountain, where it's like you have to watch for a while before and you have to trust that all of this is going to make sense, even though that might take 40 minutes. Like that almost made me feel like I was watching Memento again, where it's like, trust the process. You might be a little lost right now. We're gonna get there.
Yeah.
And then once the pieces start
And
to
I
fall in
always do.
place, same here.
And I like Tenet.
No, yeah, I mean, I like it too. Some of it's a little hokey to me.
It's not one of his strongest movies, but I still enjoyed it.
I think it ended up making it feel like it was an SNL sketch about him more than it was him and the things that he's good at.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, I found it fascinating for those reasons for sure.
Cool. Yeah, no, great movie. All right. Well, those were our tops and flops. Or no, you have one more,
I
don't
got
you?
one more, baby.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, so my number one, holy shit, someone stop David Gordon Green. Someone stop him. He's like the reanimated corpse of Michael Myers, just slashing away at classic horror movies that we've all known. The Halloween trilogy that he did, pretty crap overall. And then apparently he did a good enough job that they were like, hey, you remember one of the greatest horror movies of all time, The Exorcist? Why don't you take a stab at that thing next? And again, going back to this idea of, do other people find things scary that I don't, or do they understand what makes a thing scary? Like, he understood the beats. Like, he understood that, like, in the original Exorcist, right? There's that scene where Father Karras goes down into the subway and he sees the homeless guy and he's like, hey, can you help an old altar boy out with a couple of dollars, right? And he looks at him and does nothing, and he gets on the train, right? And later that echoes back, right, and haunts him.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the fact that Father Karras, like, has a lack of his own faith. So it's like,
Sure.
There's all these layers to it. David Gordon Green understands that there's a musical stab and we see a thing that isn't necessarily spooky, but it's supposed to mean something, but he doesn't know what it means.
So
he doesn't know what the thing means.
So the movie is
The Exorcist Believer.
Dang it. I assume that's where you're going, but like I thought the trailer looked awesome. I was excited to see it.
It's fucking awful.
Oh.
It literally boils down to this. This is what the director thought and whoever produced it. What could be more terrifying than a young girl who is possessed by a demon and starts vomiting and her head spinning and she's calling out saying fuck me Jesus and all the rest of it, and her family is so torn? What could possibly be scarier than that girl having that happen? Two girls. That's the fucking movie. That's the movie. And I can only pray that at the very least Ellen Bernstein was given a fat paycheck for showing back up.
That gave me some faith that it was going to be good.
Dude,
They tricked you.
Okay, spoiler alert, although I'm going to do this as a public service so none of you have to watch this movie. The second scene that she's in, first she talks about how dangerous a possessed person is, and then proceeds to march directly into the room of the girl who's possessed and starts commanding the demon to leave her, even though you're not a priest, like you're not a holy person. You just talked about how that's important, and then you came in and you were like, I banish you, demon. And the demon, the girl, immediately hops up and with a crucifix stabs out both of her eyes, both of Ellen Bernstein's eyes, which means for the rest of the movie, she's sitting like somebody like, I don't know, who's a good phone-it-in actor? Wilford Brimley, in a fucking chair with gauze around her eyes in a hospital bed, talking about how, like, now you must do this for the girl. And I'm like, so they just paid you to sit in this chair for the rest of the fucking movie. It is such bullshit. It's embarrassing.
Oh, damn.
It is the biggest embarrassment possible. And David Gordon Green, again, the guy who directed Pineapple Express,
So weird.
who's somehow been, and Your Highness, that was given the keys to the kingdom of John Carpenter's Halloween movies, and now being given the keys to the kingdom to fucking William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. It is
That's unfortunate.
embarrassingly bad. Embarrassingly bad. And it keeps showing
Especially
things.
if you love the first movie.
Again, like a crow in a tree, and the music's like, and you're like, what does that mean? Dave, why did we film that? I know that, like, William Friedkin filmed certain things and there was symbolism and deep intrinsic terror underneath it. But you don't know that, do you? You just know he filmed weird shit and put the music stabs underneath it. It's such bullshit. I say that as somebody who has like a framed like Exorcist poster in my house.
I can tell.
I took it seriously. I took it personally.
I can tell.
It's just it's so fucking stupid.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Those were our tops and flops of 2023. Always entertaining, Sherlock.
Please keep coming back. I'm so sorry.
Much.
Yes.
Not every show is like this. Please like and subscribe. Follow along in this journey. We're going to do a continuation of our Ozu Fest, finish it out next week with Tokyo Story. And so please join us. We'll have a Sundance episode soon after that.
Yep.
And we'll see you then.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.